The royal duckling. Paul, I've got a few things to plug and then let you take over this hour. But I tell you, we've got the head of the army. Let's get it serious. This is gallows humor about baby ducklings. We've got the chairman, Joint Chiefs saying prepare for war with Russia, as big as World War II, nuclear war. What the hell's going on? I've studied history. I've been on air 20 years. I've never heard generals talk like this. What is going on, Paul?
Well, they're trying to re-energize this regime change operation in Syria. I guarantee if Hillary gets in within 6 months, she'll be going into Syria. And it's already proven so great, hasn't it? An international migrant crisis, thousands of people dead, ruined countries strewn across the Middle East. She's going to make that even worse. Now she's talking about going to war with Russia if there's so much of a hint that they hacked some emails. She actually came out and said that.
But if there's a nuclear war and a woman leads it, then it's cool, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. But
why are you sexist? I mean, if a woman wants to, men have had their wars. If a woman wants to blow the planet up, why not let her? I mean, come on, let's be fair.
Got a vagina. I mean, why would anyone question that? Yeah, so they're doing drills where 40 million people in Russia are practicing evacuation drills. They've just built underground shelters
because they're racist
for 12 million people. This is hyping up. You've got their top Ministry of Defense TV channel warning people that nuclear war is on the horizon. This is very real. You've got the U.S. Army chief coming out and saying, we're going to destroy our enemies. Then he goes on to talk about Russia. It's obviously aimed at Russia. This is what's going to happen if Hillary...
Yeah, but Senator Kaine said terrorism's dead.
No, exactly. But this is what's going to happen. You got that attack on the aid convoy a few weeks ago. That's come out. The independent investigators went in and looked. It was a complete hoax. Russia didn't bomb an aid convoy from the sky. The road's perfectly pristine. These aid trucks look like they've been burnt out. There's no evidence of an airstrike. That looks like it was a complete hoax. You've got every single media news channel hyping this war like they tried to hype it back in...
All right, obviously you're going to cover that. I just brought that up. I'm glad you're on top of that. What else is on your radar? I think Trump should go to Haiti and expose the Clinton Foundation crimes while helping the Haitians, and then fly onto the U.S. after the hurricane hits in a couple days. I think that's a no-brainer move. I've asked folks to send that video at Infowars.com off to Trump. What do you think?
Oh, I think that's an excellent idea. I mean, you get Haitians, and I've been to that island. They absolutely hate the Clintons. They come to America to protest against them. They're suffering with this extreme weather event right now. That would be excellent to help out those people, and obviously the optics and refocusing the entire narrative back on the Clinton Foundation. That would be an amazing idea, and of course it's not far for him to travel, actually. So, yeah.
No, he's 2 hours away. 2 hours off the coast. I want to get to a clip and then hear what you're about to cover and let you get to it, but there's so many clips. What about Clinton VP whips out the, quote, Mexican card, as if they actually care about Mexicans. They want to exploit their labor. They're calling this, what's the term you used, Matt? Hispandering. I mean, look, Mexicans know you can't just come to Mexico and get everything free or come across the border with no driver's license or no evidence. So let's play. Clinton VP whips out his Mexican Hispanicking, or his, what do you call it, pandering? Hispandering. Let's go ahead and play the clip. Here it is. Pence versus Kaine last night. Just love our crew talking about it.
Trump says women should be punished, or Mexicans are rapists and criminals, or John McCain's not a hero. He is showing you who he is.
Senator, you whipped out that Mexican thing again.
And you are showing...
Look, can you defend it?
There are criminal aliens in this country, Tim, who have come into this country illegally, who are perpetrating violence and taking
You want to use a big tar brush against Mexicans?
He also said, and many of them are good people. You keep leaving that out of your quote. If you want me to go...
Back up. Exactly. The full thing is we need to vet people that are felons, people that are rapists, criminals that are running here. Mexico shouldn't take our criminals either. He said that in a speech. We need to stop the criminals coming over. He turns it into Mexicans are rapists. Imagine Donald Trump. You know Mexicans are all rapists. I mean, again, it's the deception of this little Grinch-like creature. Let's finish the clip.
who are perpetrating violence and taking
you want to use a
American
big tar
lives.
brush against Mexico?
He also said, and many of them are good people. You keep leaving that out of your quote. And if you want me to go there, I'll go there. But there is a choice here, and it is a choice on life. I couldn't be more proud to be standing with Donald Trump, who's standing for the right to life. It's a principle that Senator Kaine, and I'm very gentle about this because I really do respect you. It's a principle that you embrace. And I've appreciated the fact that you've supported the Hyde Amendment, which bans the use of taxpayer funding for abortion in the past, but that's not Hillary Clinton's view. People need to understand we can come together as a nation. We can create a culture of life. More and more young people today are embracing life because we know we're better for it. We can, like Mother Teresa said at that famous National Prayer Breakfast.
This is important.
Let's welcome the children into our world. There are so many families around the country who can't have children. If we could improve adoption so that families that can't have children can adopt more readily.
Why don't you trust women to make this choice?
All right, Paul, I'm going to get out of here. You're a busy guy. You came to do an hour broadcast. I'm going to leave you alone. But, I mean, Governor Pence absolutely dominated Creepy Kaine. I mean, he mopped the floor with him. I hope that he's advising Trump because, and I know Farage is as well. You go ahead and take over. But am I wrong? Was this not a routing yesterday?
Well, it was a complete routing, and what he did well was dismiss an attack. That's what Trump needs to do. It's, well, you said this about a woman. You may have called a woman fat 20 years ago. So what? Americans don't care about that. That's not going to impact the future of America. Dismiss it, move on. Let's talk about Libya. Let's talk about the emails. Let's talk about Clinton Foundation.
Talk about you and Abedin in a hotel room together, and her mother once salivates over chopping women's genitals off. I mean, this is crazy.
Exactly. Don't get stuck down those rabbit holes of constantly having to defend yourself for mean comments you may or may not have made, because the American people don't care about that. That's not going to affect the future of America. On a wider basis, Tim Kaine is going to be your president if Hillary Clinton's health fails, which it inevitably will at some point. This is a man who refused to refer to himself as a man. He said he was Hillary Clinton's right-hand person. He was so afraid of being politically incorrect. He refused to call himself a man.
So he's a PC, or it's a PC high priest. Exactly. Do we want Creepy Kaine as America's last president molesting the nation politically?
There was a good tweet, actually, which kind of summed it up for me. Mike Pence sounds like a wise uncle who tells you stories about life that have important lessons. Tim Kaine is the uncle that touches you. And Drudge got that photo up today of Tim Kaine. He literally looks like one of these creepy clowns that's been stalking Americans across the country. That's going to be your president at some point, chances are, given what's going on.
Well, don't discriminate against creepy clowns. We'll put the Drudge image up right now. Let's put it up on screen for TV viewers. Paul, I'm punching out. Go ahead.
So we're going to go to that clip. I believe we've got time here. Tim Kaine had to bow to the gods of political correctness that he couldn't even refer to himself as a man during the debate with Mike Pence last night. Let's go to that clip. So
my primary role is to be Hillary Clinton's right-hand person and strong supporter as she puts together the most historic administration possible. And I relish that role. I'm so proud of her.
He's her right-hand person. Why do men have to neuter themselves to fit with progressive orthodoxy? I mean, Tim Kaine is a man. Why is it embarrassing to say that? He didn't choose to be a man. He was born that way. That's the biological reality that the rest of us are busy denying, but it doesn't make it any less true. Why should he have to pretend otherwise? You're wondering why men aren't voting for Hillary, and boy, they're not? Maybe this is why.
Right. If you're a man, admit you're a man. That's the message I get from Tucker Carlson.
So there you have it. Tim Kaine, unable to refer to himself as a man. He calls himself Hillary's right-hand person. Again, good chance he's going to be the next president. If not, he might run to be the president 4 years later. Is he going to have the balls to stand up to Vladimir Putin, to stand up to China, to stand up to Iran, given the fact that he can't even refer to himself as a right-hand man? He has to use the politically correct term, person. Absolutely amazing. But again, Mike Pence crushed it in the debate. The problem is that almost 50% of the US public don't know who Kaine or Pence are, so it might not have a massive effect on the polls, but it's a good role model for Donald Trump going forward into this huge debate on Sunday, where I believe he has to score a significant victory over Hillary Clinton. And Mike Pence has given him the example on how to do it. We'll be back after the break. Stay tuned. We're skipping the break. All right. Continuing, we've got another terror attack in Europe. This is out of Breitbart, again in Belgium, the land of cultural enrichment. 2 police officers were attacked and stabbed in a suspected terror attack in the Brussels suburb of Schaerbeek at lunchtime Wednesday, as one of the city's main rail stations was closed by a bomb threat. We also had another incident a few days ago. But the 2 events took place near simultaneously in the Belgian capital this afternoon. The Brussels North station was evacuated by police and army troops with armored personnel carriers stationed outside as the bomb squad searched the location for explosives. Now, they actually ID'd this person pretty quickly, which is unusual for Belgium. We've seen cases before where they try to hide the identity of the individual because it has to have nothing to do with Islam. But they've actually identified him as Hicham D. They're not giving his surname, but his first name is Arabic. Surprise, surprise. And he's been a Belgian citizen. He was born in 1973. Again, obviously a Muslim, but he's a Belgian citizen who lives in one of these Islamic ghettos. So this is a guy who hasn't come in from Syria, hasn't come in from Afghanistan, isn't a newly arrived immigrant. He's a supposedly integrated migrant. Not even that. He's a Belgian citizen. Obviously, his parents were probably immigrants, but he's supposedly integrated. He's living in Belgium, but he's living in an Islamic ghetto. It's like Molenbeek, where the Paris massacre suspects, many of them were living. Abdeslam, again, protected by his neighbors for months and months, who refused to report him to the authorities, even though they knew that he was living amongst them. This is the problem. These Islamic ghettos cultivate radicalization. The Belgian government does nothing about it. They just bring in more Muslim migrants who all flock to these Islamic ghettos, who are all radicalized in the same vein. Again, stabbed 2 police officers, obviously a terrorist attack. It's going to happen again and again because we've been sold this lie that multiculturalism works. It doesn't. This is monoculture that we're seeing again and again. Many of these people don't want to integrate, and it's a big problem. Similar story here on a similar subject out of the Express. EU orders British press not to reveal when terrorists are Muslims. Meddling Brussels has said the British press should not report when terrorists are Muslims in a slew of demands to the government to crack down on media. So this is a group within the European Union, European Commission Against Racism and Tolerance, ECRI, that have ordered the British media to not report the identity of a terrorist who is Muslim whenever there's a terrorist attack, because, quote, it's no coincidence that racist violence is on the rise in the UK. And it goes on to say, in this context, it draws attention to a recent study which suggests that when the media stresses the Muslim background of perpetrators of terrorist attacks and devote significant coverage to it, in other words, tell the truth about what happened, which is kind of what the media is supposed to do. That's what reporters are supposed to do. After terrorist attack happened, who was behind it? What was their motive? That's what people want to know. That's their job. But no, can't do that anymore because it's Islamophobic and it, quote, encourages a violent backlash against Muslims. And that's the most important thing, is possibly causing someone to make mean comments towards a Muslim on public transport the day after a massive terror attack. They're actually ordering the British media to censor itself and not report the identity, the belief system, the motivation of the perpetrator. So it's gone beyond saying not all Muslims, saying Islam is a religion of peace, now to the level where they're saying don't even report the fact that they're Muslims. The next phase, which I've talked about before, is to have terror attacks happen and then for the media to just not report on them at all, like they didn't even happen, or to say that it was just a criminal, a mentally ill person, to hide the very nature of the attack. This is the danger of political correctness. We've gone through the examples. Political correctness kills. It killed in the case of the San Bernardino terrorists. Again, they were receiving packages to their address. The neighbors were suspicious. They were thinking about reporting them to the authorities. They didn't because they feared being called racist. Concrete example of how political correctness, when it comes to Islamophobia, those concerns trumped safety concerns. People died as a result. You can look at Rotherham, England. Again, on the doorstep of where I used to live. For 10 years plus, over a decade, thousands of young girls trafficked, sexually abused by Muslim paedophile rape gangs. None of them were caught because the authorities refused to believe the victims, said they were racist, said they were Islamophobic, didn't want to prosecute the perpetrators for fear themselves in local government and police of being called bigoted, Islamophobic, racist. Another concrete example of how political correctness harms. And we're seeing it again. Now they're ordering the British media not to report that terrorists are Muslims. You know, we had CNN a few weeks ago with the New York attack, you know, chastising Donald Trump for saying it was a bomb. Well, it was a bomb, but that's politically incorrect. You can't say the word bomb anymore. You had the BBC reporting, asking the question a few months ago, is it politically incorrect to call terrorists terrorists? They actually asked that question because, God forbid, you might offend a terrorist. So we've got this propaganda at the moment sweeping Europe as people are arrested for criticizing Angela Merkel on Facebook, trying to convince us that Islamophobic hate crimes are exploding. They're not. It's a complete lie. Hate crime prosecutions have fallen, but they floated that myth so they could blame it on Brexit, so they could create this narrative that this hate crime epidemic is sweeping the country. It's not. But what do we see after every single terror attack? We saw it after Nice. The main concern from the regressive left is Islamophobia. Well, I'm sorry, but somebody saying something mean to a Muslim on public transport, that's not nice. But that's not the biggest threat, okay? That's not the biggest concern. Islamofascism is the biggest concern until we recognize it, realize it, and actually have the guts to say the term Islamic terrorism. Then we're only going to encourage more attacks. And there's been another one in Brussels today. This is the issue. We're all upset about so-called Islamophobia, upsetting Muslims, God forbid, hate crime epidemic, which actually doesn't exist, sweeping Europe. When on the flip side, we're importing millions of people who adhere to a belief system that spawned something known as the rape game. This is part of their belief system. You have Afghanistan, where part of their belief system is for the elder men to rape young boys. Just part of their culture. Again, US troops tried to blow the whistle on that. They were told to shut up. Just part of their culture. They actually have something called Taharush Gamir, the rape game. And you've seen it in Egypt, in Tahrir Square. Logan, the reporter, again, dragged, beaten, raped by tens and tens of men, dozens of men. Thought she was going to die. That's the rape game in action. We've seen it in Cologne. We've seen it at music festivals in Sweden. That's the real concern. But they don't even report on it. They only report on the supposed Islamophobic hate crime wave that's sweeping the country. When actual hate crime prosecutions are down, it's a complete myth, completely invented by the media. We just had Oktoberfest in Germany. Again, massive cultural festival, God forbid, Germans celebrating their own culture. That's racist in and of itself, probably. 300,000 less people attended this year. Why? Well, because Germany has been beset by a wave of terror attacks by migrants, in most cases, over the entire summer.